And without further ado, just a very quick introduction. So a bit about myself in the first slide. If you can just move on to the very first. These are just some of the brands you've heard about, and I've had the pleasure to work with. So as you've heard, my background is sustainability, or ESG. That's my passion. It's much more than a job. Is a vocation, I'd say. I've done sustainability in different parts of the world. So I work with Vodafone, and then at Santander, and down there you've seen some of the different brand flags of the places that I've either worked with or have close contact. As my accent might have given already away, I'm Italian by background, but I spent some time in Ecuador. I've had global and local roles. My husband is Brazilian, and therefore very international background. Now, what my CV does not say, and you probably cannot tell by reading LinkedIn, is how passionate I am about sustainability in general, and even more passionate about gender equality. That has been something that has permeated everything I've done in my professional and personal life. And so much so that, believe it or not, but gender equality was the theme of my wedding. And I know some of you might be skeptic and not believe me. So today I've brought some proof. There you go. So that's Exhibit A. That's me getting married. And that's SDG number 5, gender equality. Of course, you can imagine the people who were at my wedding were quite puzzled by my choice, but I felt very strongly that when I married, and I actually didn't think I'd get ever married, that gender equality had to be what my husband and I, took a vow on, and we both vowed to be for the he for she, to be really in an equal relationship. And that was indeed the theme of our wedding, but it's very much the theme of our marriage. So we work very closely together in a partnership with my husband to try to be as equal as we possibly can. And as I share with you some of the reflections of my journey, I'll tell you a bit more why I think that is so very important. So look, but before we go into some of my thoughts and reflections on my gender equality journey, I wanted to share with you some stats. So on to the next slide, I've taken the freedom of share some of the numbers of what being a woman means, and being a woman in numbers doesn't look great. 129 million girls are out of school. That's a big number. Like, I work in the tech sector. I've done this for a while, and females represent just 25% of the workforce. And it gets worse. If you're an Asian woman in the tech sector, you just represent 5%. If you're a Black woman, it's 3%. And if you're Hispanic, it's 1%. So we've got lots of work to do. And while we represent in tech 25% of the workforce, 90% of men remaining full-time after having children. And 69% of women and mothers seems to be more likely to be passed up for a new job while they are on maternity. So this goes on and on. The stats are quite depressing when I looked at them. But then at the center there's something interesting. There's the size of the opportunity. $28 trillion would be added to the global GDP if women were to participate in the economy in an identical way to men. Now, that's a number I like to think about. And what's also interesting is that FTSE 350 companies tend to perform 3% higher if they have 25% women of their exco, that is their executive team. So it's interesting, isn't it? You look at the stats around those two in the center, and it's depressing. It's like, what do you mean that gender, that women are still so excluded to the economy, that we're so penalized? And yet there is such a strong business case. And that we should embrace gender equality just because it's the right thing to do. So I shouldn't be here having to explain that there is a business case for it. Yeah. So let me be clear. We should do it just because it's the right thing to do. And there is no reason I can think about that we should, that goes against it. It's just what should be. But even if you don't buy into that argument, and come to me and let's have a chat if you don't, because I do want to have a chat with you if you don't. But it's also a smart thing to do from a business and from an economy perspective. So I think we can now move on from slides, and I'd like just to move on into my personal experience, because I think that these are the stats, and that's all well and good. But I have been reflecting on what it takes, right? And what's been my personal experience being a woman and trying to have a career, and trying to really sponsor gender equality. So I've got 3 thoughts that I want to share with you, and based on my experience. The very first thing that I want to share with you today, and links back to the picture of my wedding, is that I think gender equality is a sport game, and we really cannot play by ourselves. We need the other half of the team to come and play. So let me give you a little story on what I mean by this. So look, when I became a parent, I asked my husband, and my husband and I agreed that he should play an equal role. So we gave some thought about what that meant. So my husband took time off, and he had to basically share the same career responsibility that I had. So he had to decline meetings to make it to bath time. He had to flex around doctor's appointments. And it was very interesting because he faced a lot of challenges. So he found it harder to progress. He found it harder to perform. He felt guilt. He felt divided. And once he was in a meeting and he told me, one guy told him, "Oh, I should tell my wife to have another kid so that I can go on holiday and work part-time." Now, of course, whoever said this never looked after a child, because if you had, you do know that looking after children is far from being on holiday. Now, look, what's the good news behind this very grim story that I'm sharing? Is that somehow the fact that he, as a man, suffered the same discriminations and barrier as a woman, gave me some hope that if we get men to play an equal role, a similar role, if we swap, if we share more, maybe we can knock down those barriers, those discrimination. We can challenge them. Well, look, as a minimum, if men were to play an equal role as women in parenthood and other aspects of family and career life, they will either face the same discrimination, or those biases that lead to the discrimination will be challenged. Let me make this real. Since my husband has gone through that experience of sharing childcare responsibility, he's much more attuned to what it takes and what are the impacts in a career. He has a queue of colleagues wanting to talk to him, and he, he's a senior person, so he has a lot of the younger and more junior people coming to him for advice and wanting him to be their mentor, coach, and actually manager, because they know that in him they've got a strong ally, someone who understands. And he proactively thinks every time that some colleague goes onto paternity or maternity, how can I help? How can I support? How can I remove the paternity or maternity fine that society has imposed? So look, this is one of the way, but also at Sage, where I work, what I do is encourage other parents to share their stories. And I actually have a very nice colleague. He has just become a parent of his second child. And what I love about him is that he often, when he can't make a meeting, for example, at 5:30 p.m., he says, look, sorry, this is bath time, I can't make it. And I kept telling him, do that. Encourage, speak up and say that sometimes you can't make things because of childcare duties and responsibility. And why that is so important is that I have, as a woman, childcare responsibility. And I would feel disadvantaged if he wasn't sharing the burden on his side. Now, because we both, he's a man, I am a woman, but we both cannot make that meeting at the time. Now, that is a level play field. So it's so important to get the other side of the team to play. So that was one thought I wanted to share. The second thought that I wanted to share with you is owning being a woman and celebrating it. What I mean by that is, I think too often women, to succeed in the workplace, need to behave like men. How many times have I been told, oh, you've got to be bold, assertive? And there is some very bad language that permeates the workplace, men up and other less elegant ways of speaking. And I think this is problematic. I think we need to challenge that language. And I think we need to challenge that one and be proud of being women and be women with all the attributes that we believe belongs to us and our gender, whatever they are. Each one of us will define what they mean for ourselves. But I think that what it means to own to be a woman is also owning the phase of lives that women go through. Now, let me use another example. So when I felt pregnant, I never used this language to share my news. I never said I'm pregnant. I always said, my husband and I are expecting a child. And I took a lot of control of that narrative. I said, we're expecting a child, we're very excited, and this is making me even more motivated to, work, do sustainability, leave behind a better world. I told people what I wanted them to think. And the reason why I'm saying this, I know that in the audience, we've got a lot of young girls and ladies. And I want us, and I want you to know that you can be a woman, you're going to go through lots of things through your life. And I think we need, as a gender, to embrace them and talk about these phases and get the support we need. For example, I talk very openly about having periods and about PMS. PMS can be really a challenge. And again, I know that on the line, we've got lots of teens. And look, it's not easy. I suffer from very bad PMS. So once a month, I can get very bad headaches, very bad moods. I feel like crying for really no reason, no apparent reason, but that's my hormones, right? And I think that, and I talk to my team about this. So I may well start a meeting and say to guys, I'm a bit off today because I am PMSing. So, and at the beginning, it made some people a bit uncomfortable, but actually then more people start to share that. And actually one lady in one of my previous teams came and said, oh, I suffer from very bad PMS. Is it okay if I work from home? Because I'm more productive if I do that and I'm more comfortable. Of course you can. So, and since then on, I gave myself the label of PMS friendly manager. Again, the reason why I'm saying this is, I spent about 3 years in Kenya, and I've seen far too many girls feeling ashamed of having a period, and losing education's opportunity, missing out from school, missing out from life opportunity because of their periods. And that's it's just unacceptable. I'm sorry, but our period is the reason why every one of us is here today, and it's breathing and it's a living being. So it's not something to be ashamed of, it's something to be proud. So as an employer, I feel we need to support that, and we do that at Sage. As a manager and as a leader, I am very supportive of anyone going through PMS or any other phase of a woman's life that can be menopause as well. So I think the second message I wanted to leave you with is be proud of being a woman, be proud of everything that being a woman means, and seek the support you need with pride. Because we're kind of amazing creatures. We do a lot. I remember when I was pregnant, I used to say to people, I would start a meeting and say, right, on the agenda today, I'm making life and making a baby. And then we've got all other sorts of things going on, but that's what I'm busy with today as well. So we're quite amazing beings. And I think we just need to get the system to work around us and accommodate and support us. But just be proud of being a woman, because there's lots to be proud of. The last thought that I have is that I think we need to stop assuming things about women, and we need to start asking. I think there's lots of unconscious bias, and I'm not saying anything new. I know when I say this, so I know we're all very aware, and there's lots of, I think literature around unconscious bias. But what I think my nuance and reflections on unconscious bias is sometimes they convince ourselves. We convince ourselves of these biases. What I mean, let me use another example. What I mean by this is, when I got married, I was on an international assignment in Kenya. My husband was living in the UK. And I got asked 100 times, oh, are you relocating now? Are you, giving up your international assignment and giving up your job and joining your husband? And at the beginning, I started questioning, oh, should I do that? And I was like, but wait a second, no, why? Why isn't my husband? Why does anything has to change? Why don't you ask him the same question? How many times have I heard, oh, she's going on maternity, so we need to wait and see what she feels after she comes. Maybe she wants to go to part-time. And yet we wouldn't ever think something like that about a man. I've never heard anyone saying, oh, he's becoming a father, so we need to think about maybe he's going to want to go on part-time. There's lots of assumptions in there. So I think we need to stop assuming things about women. We need to start asking the question. How many times, and as this is, real life experience, was in a meeting and I was told, oh, yeah, there is an opportunity for an international assignment, but this lady has a young family. I doubt she'll want to move. And I said, why? Have you asked? Funny enough, they hadn't. We went to ask, and you know what? She was really eager to move with the whole family. That's fine. We do this all the time with men. Why not with women? So I think we should really stop assuming and start asking. And look, these are my three thoughts. There is a fourth one, and I'm cheating because I said three, but I'm going to leave you. I'm going to close with a fourth thought that is really about setting the bar higher. Look, everything I said is in a context where I think we've gone a very long way since where, we started, since the suffragette started, and we have come a long way. Look, I've come across some amazing women in my career who had to give up a lot to get where they got to. And that makes me feel sad. Some of them achieved a lot in their career, but had to compromise on family, on personal life, on even their own values. And that shouldn't be the case. And I think that there is a risk in that sometimes also within our women community, we set the bar a bit low. We go like, well, once upon a time, there wasn't maternity. Or if you live in the US, right? And you come over in the UK and you find out that offices have breastfeeding rooms. So you might believe that's awesome, right? Because I think that the US is still some catching up to do on some of these. And I think the UK is quite advanced. but I don't think we can use that as an excuse. Geographies or the fact that things are better now than they were 10 years ago, it's not an excuse. They're still not good enough. So I think we need to set the bar higher, and we need to keep on pushing. And that's why I'm really proud of the work that we're doing with Team and in AI. At Sage, we have a 2-year partnership. We're sponsoring a couple of programs, one of which is International Women's Days Hackathon and the Summer Bootcamp Accelerator. And I think this is incredibly important because we do need more women. I want that 25%, that 1% to be 50%. So I need you all in this program to really carry on, believe in yourselves. As I said, I'm going to recap on my few thoughts, right? You need the support. So that's what we're trying to do at Sage. We want to empower, enable all of you to thrive. And I hope these programs go a long way to support you in doing that. And then what I suggest you do is get the other half of the team to play, be proud of being a woman, and ask yourself whether some of those unconscious bias are playing in your mind. Don't let them stop you. So I think with that, there were just my few thoughts based on my experience, and I hope that was helpful. And I think with that, we are opening up to questions.
Definitely, we definitely are. And thank you so much, Elisa, for such a very authentic account of your story, which really, really matters to everyone on the call here today. And I'm super pleased to also hear that some of the countries are now working towards legalizing a 3-day menstrual absence of leave. I hope we get there as well here in the UK, and other countries follow suit. But we do have some questions. And I am going to ask my team to curate this, but there is one that's definitely just popped out at me, which is definitely on the topic. And Elisa, I will just read it out to you. The question goes, how did the rest of the business react / adjust to your period-friendly management style?
Yeah, it's a good question. So like at first, there was a bit of perplexity. I could see, especially some of the men in the team felt a bit embarrassed. They weren't quite sure what to do, what to say. But then they did embrace it. And what was wonderful to see is that they actually became much more supportive. And one of them started to also share that his partner suffered from very bad PMS. So actually, he was much more empathetic than we thought that we thought he'd be, or others would be. So that's interesting also of our own biases, right? We assumed that they wouldn't understand. And although there was a very first a bit embarrassed reaction, then this specific colleague, he became one of our biggest allies, and he actually knew quite a lot about it and started sharing tips that his wife uses, and that was actually really nice to see. So we found in our men some really good allies. And actually, you know what, you made me think, when my husband and I discovered that we were expecting a child, one of the best conversations I had was with a man, with a senior partner in PwC. He actually gave me really good tips. So sometimes actually we can find really strong allies in the other half of the team if we get them to play with us.
I agree with you. I think allyship is so important. We sometimes refer to them as manbassador. And it's always great to find those allies in your team or in your company. So I have one last question, because unfortunately we don't have much time left, and that is a question to you, Elisa, very much reflecting on your teenage years, and perhaps letting us know what you would have done differently, or what advice you would have offered to your own self when you were in your teen years right now.
It is back to the be proud of being a woman.
Okay.
Like I think that we go through a lot as women. And I think the teens who are listening to us, adolescence for girls, it's not a joke. It's not easy. The hormones, the first periods, the periods in general. But I'd say be proud. Being a woman is an incredible gift. We're really powerful creatures, and own it. I know that we're almost run of time, Elena, but just a very quick story. This probably is a bit early for this audience of teens, but when I was approached by Sage for a job interview, I was breastfeeding. And I had two choices. One was to hide that I was a new mom and I was breastfeeding. The other one was to actually embrace it and say, look, I want to work for a company that will help me thrive because I'm a woman and because I'm a mother, and will really embrace me for who I am. And I went in the interview and said, I'm breastfeeding. I can't do this at this time, and I need time to breastfeed in between. And they were amazing. And that's where I knew this was the company that I wanted to work for. So my message here is, don't hide, don't feel you've got to hide, own it. You got to select the people you work with, select your friends, select the people you hang out with, select your employer. You have what it takes, and you not only have the right to be a woman, you need to be proud of being a woman, and it shouldn't be something you feel ashamed of, and get the support you need to thrive.
Fantastic. This is really great advice, and thank you so much, Elisa, for making the time for us today. And everyone, we have the second speaker already waiting for us, and I'm looking forward to introducing Sophie to you as well. So Elisa, thank you so much for your time today. Looking forward to reconnecting perhaps in Manchester at the conference that Sage is